A new push from the White House tonight to crack down on immigrants who come to the U.S. and then take government assistance. And it all traces back to a 23-year-old law passed with the help of Joe Biden and Bill Clinton. Trace Gallagher's on the case for us tonight. Good evening, Trace.
Good evening, Shannon. By signing the memorandum today, President Trump is simply enforcing a 23-year-old law supported in 1996 by then-Senator Joe Biden and signed into law by then-President Bill Clinton. The provision requires sponsors of legal immigrants to reimburse the federal government for social services used by the immigrant, like Medicaid and welfare. The way it works is each future sponsor of an immigrant would be required to sign documents that lay out the financial responsibilities and creates a mechanism for the government to collect any unpaid balances. The administration says it would encourage sponsors to carefully consider who they're willing to stand behind and would end the practice of bringing in large numbers of welfare-dependent immigrants. A White House fact sheet that we have not verified says, quote, 78% of households headed by a non-citizen with no more than a high school education use at least one welfare program. This is all part of the president's push for a merit-based immigration system, or point system, that, if adopted, would favor high-skilled workers. Education, age, and proficiency in English would also be factored in. Right now, only 12% of immigrants are admitted based on merit, 66% on family connections inside the U.S., also known as chain migration. The administration says this would essentially flip the numbers, with 57% admitted on merit, 33% on family ties. None of this would affect those who are already in the country illegally. The president also says he is trying to close loopholes so that gang members and criminals would be admissible. Finally, despite California already having among the highest taxes in the country and the highest unfunded liabilities like pensions, the state Senate has advanced a $214 billion spending bill to give illegal immigrants free health. The measure would apply to illegal immigrants between the ages of 19 and 25 or 65 and older. Shannon.
All right, Trace Gallagher on the West Coast. Thank you very much. Okay, there you have it. A creative new tactic in the Trump administration's efforts to enforce already existing immigration laws. Let's talk it over with a couple of civil rights attorneys who are plugged in here, Robert Patillo and Harmeet Dhillon. Thank you both for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, I want to read a little bit of the way that this is described in the Hill today, this plan from the president. It says the policy will require states to provide the names of immigrants drawing benefits to federal agencies before a bill is then issued to the sponsor, the person who helped bring them into the country. If the sponsor doesn't pay the bill, a notice will be sent to the Treasury Department and the amount will be withheld from a sponsor's tax return. I mean, Harmeet, this bill was already on the books. The law was on, apparently it's not been enforced, though.
Right. And I'm a big fan of enforcing the laws that are on the books like this one. It's a really good common sense law. It's puzzling why it hasn't been. My concern I want to add, though, is that this still leaves a huge disparity and dichotomy between the way that the laws are being enforced and the rhetoric is actually ramping up against illegal immigrants, of which, by the way, I am one, and a citizen, and illegal immigrants. So I think we see a frustration on the part of the administration. They seem to be unable, because of Democratic blockage, to do anything about the illegal immigration problem and the border wall and so forth. So they're cracking down on legal immigrants. So I think we have to do both. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to hold people accountable. But what about the huge number of illegal immigrants taking advantage of our system?
Well, and Robert, this is a bill that was passed back in 1996. Then Senator Joe Biden was instrumental in this. Senator then and still now Ron Wyden, a Democrat, also instrumental in getting it done. And a Democratic president signed it. So would you support it?
Well, I think this is a brilliant political masterstroke by the Trump team. You get to kneecap Joe Biden at the same time you get to seem like you're strong on immigration, and you get to put in place a memorandum that will get Democrats back to the table negotiating on immigration. So it's a brilliant political strategy. But from a practical aspect, it does not address our broken immigration system. I don't think anybody believes that just bring in a bunch of highly skilled individuals from other countries to compete against Americans who are fighting fighting for IT and tech sector jobs is a good idea. At the same time, abandoning our farmers and our agricultural community who needs these laborers coming in. I'm a son of an immigrant family who came in, and that generation was not highly skilled or merit-based. But guess what? This generation after that one is very highly skilled because of the advantages we had here in America. So I think it's a brilliant masterstroke politically, but I think the policy itself is going to be impracticable to enforce, and it's really focused on ensuring getting Democrats back to the table.
Okay, I want to ask you both, too, about this thing that was passed out in the California Senate out there. AP reports it this way. California Senate passes $214 billion spending plan that would expand benefits to people in the U.S. illegally. They have a quote from the California Senate Budget Committee Chair Holly Mitchell, Democrat, says, "These are people who are working, who are paying taxes. That's a population we ought not leave behind." Harmeet, this is the same state that is complaining about being overrun by people that they say they can't care for. So it's a bit confusing.
Well, who's complaining, Shannon? The actual people who are complaining, like myself, who had to step over people lying in the streets to get here to the studio in San Francisco. We citizens are complaining, but the politicians in Sacramento do not care. They are not complaining. They think that our state is great as a haven for more and more people who do not pay their way here. And of course, that a remark by the state senator was predicated upon, they also pay taxes. Mm-hmm. That is a fallacy. They hardly pay any taxes. They pay sales taxes, but most of the time they actually use Social Security numbers that are fake. They don't pay the same taxes as all of us do, and they are now going to be enjoying these benefits. But believe it or not, this proposal that passed the legislature today was a compromise, because actually the Democrats in Sacramento wanted to cover all illegal aliens, not carving out the ones who are between the ages of 25 and 65, but all of them. Why not? And hey, why not make a magnet out of California for every illegal alien in the country? As it is, this proposal covering a substantial number of people is actually going to increase the migration of illegal aliens into our state. At the same time, it probably encourages people to leave California who are actually taxpayers.
Very quick final word to Robert. We got to go.
Well, the state is recognizing the political realities on the ground. You have a large population that's undocumented. You cannot just simply have them without health care. You can't let them die in the streets. You have to have a way to cover them. This is a mechanism for that. Although it may not be ideal for many, it is something that has to be done, or else you're going to have the externalities of people using the emergency room instead of using regular health care providers.
And they would not be
dying in the streets.
They would not be turned away there.
Homeless.
Yes, I mean, people having health care insurance and having health care are two different things, but no one's dying in the streets.
That's right.
We do not want that to happen to anyone. Okay, Robert and Harmeet, thank you both.
Thanks, Shannon.
All right, Congressman Devin Nunes next on the president.